Our top story for this half hour, the Israeli military says a Syrian surface-to-air missile exploded in the city of Dimona near a nuclear plant. There are no immediate reports of any injuries or damage, but the Israeli army said the Dimona reactor was not hit. The regime says a Syrian missile was fired toward one of its aircrafts over the Golan Heights. However, it says the missile overflew its target and landed in Israel. In response, the military says it attacked the Syrian missile battery that fired the projectile, as well as other military targets. For the second time, U.S. media reports said the incident points to possible Iranian involvement, but added there was no immediate claim of responsibility or comment from Iran. Israeli media have also said following the sabotage attempt at Iran's Natanz, Israel's anti-missile systems around the Dimona plant have been on high alert. The regime's media noted that Iran had vowed to retaliate against the move, which Tehran said was perpetrated by Israel. Well, we were earlier joined by our Damascus correspondent Mohammed Ali to get more on the latest Israeli strike on the Syrian capital.
An official Syrian military source issued a statement confirming that, yes, there was an Israeli attack on Damascus countryside. The statement said that at 1:38 a.m. local time in Damascus, Israel launched several missiles from the direction of the occupied Syrian Golan, targeting some positions around the capital Damascus, meaning in Damascus countryside. And directly, Syrian air defenses responded, shooting down, intercepting most of the enemy missiles. And the Israeli attack eventually led to the injury of 4 Syrian soldiers and also caused some material damage. Now, this is definitely not the first time Israel attacks Syria almost every week or two, targeting Syrian army positions, sometimes in Damascus or its countryside, and other times in other parts of the country. Sometimes it uses surface missiles. Sometimes it uses its fighter jets, violating Lebanese airspace, for example. And in the end, this is definitely an attack against Syria's sovereignty, and it's against international law.
Well, for more on that story, we're now joined by peace activist and commentator Sarbaz Ruhollah Rezvi, joining us from Rome. Also, we have Professor of International Relations at Lebanese University, Jamal Wakim, joining us from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's start off with Mr. Rezvi in Rome. Give us your thoughts on the recent developments. By the looks of it right now, it seems that the Israeli regime is much more vulnerable than it likes to, the image that it likes to portray to the world.
Yeah, exactly. There is one, official narrative on behalf of the Zionist regime that this was a surface-to-air missile in reaction to the Israeli air raid in Golan Heights. That, by mistake, took its way exactly to Dimona. Even if we accept this narrative of the Zionists, this shows how Dimona, which is actually one of the most sensitive spots of the in occupied territories, is vulnerable. None of the defense system, either Iron Dome or either any other defense system of the Zionist regime, have been booked there, and they were actually infiltrated by these rockets that were fired from the Syrian side. This is something very clear, that if Israel is not even to protect its Dimona facilities, they are inside the territorial and inside the occupied territories. The second point that's really important is that I'm still really skeptical towards this narrative of the Zionists, that this was a surface-to-air missile, because the confrontation was going on in Golan Heights, but we are talking about Dimona, exactly at the center of the occupied territories. It is some 300 kilometers far away from the Syrian borders. So it's not logical to accept that a confrontation that was going on in Golan Heights, which is almost 70 degrees different from the direction of the Dimona, resulted in this event that took place early today. So if there is another, if we are going to accept the possibility of another scenario there, which is a possible surface-to-surface missile fired from inside Syria towards Dimona, to show to Israelis that no, you're not going to be safe, even your Dimona facilities may be our target. This has another meaning. That is exactly what Israel was doing during all these years in attacking to Syrian territories, and the target and the pretext for them was to stop Iranians and to stop the threat that was coming from the Syrian side because of the presence of the Iranians. That has also been, defeated, because again they were attacked. If we accept, of course, this scenario, they were attacked from inside Syria, and their defense system was unable to protect the Dimona facilities. So my understanding is that it is a very clear message to the Zionist regime, and it is, of course, a powerful blow in the face of the Zionists.
Professor Joachim, I'd also like to get your thoughts on the issue as well about this sense of security that the Israeli regime projects, picking up on what our guest in Rome just said, this so-called Iron Dome defense system, it's much more vulnerable than projected.
Well, it has been proven that this anti-missile system in the Zionist entity has been ineffective in facing rockets launched from southern Lebanon or from Syria. So this explains the continuous attacks by Israel on Syrian territories. But with regards to this latest development, I believe that there are three possibilities. Either it was as stated by Israeli media and military spokesmen that it was an anti-air missile that had landed in Dimona, but this is a weak probability, because even if it's if a missile missed its objective, how would it reach as far as 300 kilometers south? That's one question. Another possibility is that the Israelis are, let's say, forging this story to justify an escalation of the situation in order to obstruct a possible Iranian-American agreement, which is most probable to be coming in next June. So that's the second probability. And the third probability is that the Syrian side has decided to step up its retaliation against Israeli aggression by targeting a vulnerable point, which is Dimona. And this could be done in coordination with the Iranian ally, because to tell Israel that not only we will be subject to attacks, but we can retaliate in kind and in a way that could hit hard Israel. So these are the three possible scenarios. The first scenario is very weak. The second and third scenario could be more plausible.
Professor Joachim, I'm going to stay with you now. The Israeli regime media has noted that Iran had vowed to retaliate against the sabotage attempt at Iran's Natanz facility. That was an attempt which Tehran said was perpetrated by Israel. The Israelis have said that their anti-missile systems around Dimona have been on high alert. Many would say this was not wise by the Israeli regime to try to increase the tensions with Tehran.
Well, the Israelis are trying to, we need to see their objectives from their perspective. Their objective is to obstruct any deal between Iran and the new American administration. And it seems that the new American administration is willing to go for such a deal. Analysts are talking about that. So this explains why Israel has attacked Iranian ships in the Red Sea and it had stepped up its attacks on Syria. But on the other side, we see that the Iranians were more willing to step up their reaction by targeting Israeli vessels. So I believe that the Israelis have this in mind, especially that Netanyahu is facing a dire situation in Israel. So that's a possible scenario. But at the same time, the third scenario, which is to say that the Syrians are targeting or raising their level of retaliation, is also plausible, and it's linked to the second scenario also.
Mr. Rezvi, same question to you. Talk to us about the timing of all of this and the increased tensions with Tehran.
Yeah, let's not forget, a couple of days ago, there was another blast, a huge blast actually, in one of the Israeli military facilities, IAI, which is one of the well-known Israeli military facilities. And there was a huge, blast there. And the flames of that blast was visible from kilometers away. And again, we have that, that funny Israeli narrative that this was a controlled experimental event taking place inside the military facilities. Yet we do not have any clear image about what's going on there, what took place there. But if we want to connect these events together, just within just less than 3 days, there are two explosions in two sensitive, spots, sensitive in the facilities of the Zionist regime. I am much more, towards the third analysis. Still, as I mentioned, I believe that the scenario is somehow different, and from what Israelis are telling to the media and how they are covering the events taking place inside the Zionist regime. Something is very clear: Israel is not safe. Israel is not safe. If Dimona is not safe, if Israeli, high-level military facilities are not safe and they are facing problems. So this is, I think, very clear signal to the Zionists. Yes, there is no doubt that Zionists are unhappy with ongoing negotiations between Iran, and they have clearly mentioned that we will do our best to stop the negotiations. But I believe that the first retaliation to the alleged Israeli, infiltration in the Iranian Natanz facilities was, enrichment of 60% enrichment of the uranium in the same facility that the Israelis were claiming that we have targeted, and this is no more, in the circuit, and it's no more working. But within few days, Iranians proved that they were able to enrich the highest level of the uranium in the same facilities that the Israelis were claiming that they have targeted that. Not unofficially, of course, but unofficially it was said that it was dominated by the Zionists. So if I want to connect these dots together, I believe that a strong message is going to be delivered to the Zionists, that if they are going to make any mess with the ongoing process of peace between Iran and the world powers, and with Iran and Iranian allies, with the Syrian government, and with all the allies of Iran, they are going to retaliate, and no place inside Israel is going to be safe.
All right, thanks a lot, gentlemen. Saros Rula Rizvi joining us from Rome. Also, thanks to Professor Jamal Wakim speaking to us from the Lebanese capital, Beirut.